All right, welcome back to the Tool World Podcast. I'm your host, David Jew, and I'm here with Master Jew.
Keep fighting there, Mr. Jew.
Okay, yeah, keep fighting on. All right, this week... Fighting, yeah.
Yeah, fighting.
This week I have a question for you. Not technically...
You mean those guys?
Yeah, I guess for those guys.
Not me.
Technically. No, it is for you. It's something
It's
you've
for
kind of
me.
been seeing a little bit in other schools. And, I think most like ITF schools, I'm just going to make a general assumption here, pattern sparring, for sure.
Okay.
They'll probably cover some step sparring.
Right.
And they'll probably cover, your kicks. Right.
Self-defense?
Self-defense, too. Well, that depends on the school. Okay. But
it does depend on the school.
I would say that they probably do all of those things. Yeah, and the Dalian might just be the regular push-ups they do every day, right? That
Jumping
could be Dalian.
jacks.
Yeah, jumping jacks.
Yeah. Striking someone in the stomach?
Maybe.
Maybe. Anyway.
But, so that is your basic curriculum in ITF Taekwondo.
Right. Yeah. Pretty simple.
Yeah, pretty simple. Yeah. Now, there are some schools, and they're maybe not necessarily ITF, but they've decided to change the curriculum. And so they go, okay, well, I am going to swap out step sparring, because even WT or even karate does, they do step sparring or application or whatever you want to call it. They swap that out with like boxing drills, hand met drills. And they have a whole curriculum. I think they do testing with that.
Yeah.
And all that kind of jazz, right? So what do you think about that?
Well, I think when we go back and we look at how General Che developed the system, and part of it is like step sparring, right? There's a section on step. We've got 3-step sparring, 2-step sparring, 1-step sparring, model sparring, semi-free sparring. So there's all these different types of sparring. Mm-hmm. And do they have a place in our training? I kind of think we do. It's kind of like patterns, We don't fight like that. So why do we do patterns? And so some schools eliminate that. And step sparring could be eliminated in that fashion as well. It's not as hands-on, let's say, with focus mitts and stuff like that. But who's to say you can't do that and step sparring? Okay, step sparring is maybe not the most exciting part, but that depends on who you're talking to too, right?
I've not met someone that likes step sparring, including myself.
I did a step sparring seminar. It's like, why? There's a lot of detail work in it.
Yeah.
There is a lot of detail work. And so do I think step sparring is important? What does it teach us? I mean, if you look at the real fundamental, like 3-step sparring, beginning step sparring, so forth, it's all about distance. And so when I think about a new student coming in who has no experience, who has no idea between how close they are or how far they are. And so, like when I generally say, well, if I'm going to spar someone that I've never met, who's a white belt, and they don't even have to have any martial art experience, they are literally white belts, I kind of have to be on my toes because they might throw a kick or punch faster and harder, and I have to actually kind of defend myself, not having to worry. But if I have a black belt that's throwing kicks and punch, I kind of feel a little more confident that they understand how far away they are from their opponent or what they're trying to do. And so step sparring really is about learning how close you are to our opponent. That's why when we do beginning 3-step sparring, we step, we measure, right? And we do that through all of the 3-step sparring. 2-step sparring isn't any different as well. 2-step sparring is really about changing from one stance to another, maybe from a walking stance to an L stance. And that distance changes, and so our application changes. And so I think that eliminating step sparring is not a good idea. I think it's just progression. We need to learn certain things.
Yeah, but I think the idea of that is not as practical comes up, right? So if I'm doing hand mitts, I'm getting some kind of practicality of, some feedback on the hand. I know how to hit the pad and to generate some power,
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing, right? When you hit a bag, it's a lot different than doing it in the air.
And I totally agree. I think that for a student of Taekwondo, you have to do all of it. I think you got to hit bags. You got to know what it feels like. You got to hit mitts. You got to hit targets, paddles. You actually have to hit your opponent in sparring. I think it's all part of it. I just think that there is an element in the step sparring that I think is still viable. And not everyone is actually ready for that. I mean, I've had grown adult women, and you put them in some hand mitts, and you're going after it, and they just don't like it. You know,
that's true.
They don't like it, and some do, some don't, and so those people are kind of like progression. You kind of have to baby step them through martial art, and so yeah, I don't know if everyone's ready for the hand mitts. I think it's cool, yeah, no doubt. Like I said, I think all of those things need to be done as well. So much to do.
Yeah, I mean, you have some limited time, so how do you choose what you have in your curriculum? I think that's kind of what it is, you know. Or maybe those students, they might only go twice a week, or the schools, right? So it's like, well, okay, if my student only goes 2 times a week, how is he going to learn all of the curriculum, right?
Right.
And so you can't have this huge curriculum because then no one would ever test because they would never.
We do have a huge curriculum, and in some ways, there's some of the schools are doing these kind of modular curriculum, which in a way I'm thinking about. So that seems like a very efficient way of doing something. But do we cover everything? I'm not sure. Maybe I just say that I'm just too old school. I don't know. So can we cut out stuff? Yeah, I think we can cut out. Well, I kind of think we should do everything.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I think.
Right.
It's just part of the training. I mean, we don't do a lot of ground fighting. Should we add that back in? I mean, I've covered it. But to be honest with you, most of our guys don't really want to roll around on the ground. That's why they do taekwondo.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they would be doing jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think, I mean, if you look at it from that point of view, you got a jiu-jitsu school. I'm not talking about mixed martial arts school, but a jiu-jitsu school. Do they even hit pads? You know, I'm not sure.
No,
they
don't
probably
do
do a lot of groundwork, and
Right.
you know, they might hit the floor.
I don't even think they do
simulation,
that.
But
I don't think they do that. It's more submission.
more submission, right? And so, you know, taekwondo is mostly noted for its kicks, and we don't think of it as the hands are very important. So maybe some schools that only focus on kicking a paddle. What about the hands, right? So focus mitt sounds like a pretty good idea to do that.
Yeah.
When we train, you know, like sparring, we're kicking and punching, right? Punch him in the head, right?
Yeah.
His head's open, punch him, right?
Yeah.
Those kind of things. So it's not a foreign thing as well,
Right.
for our guys anyway.
Yeah. All right. Well, let us know your guys' thoughts on changing the curriculum, right? Maybe switching something out.
Nothing's wrong.
I guess so. Whatever works for you.
That's right, whatever works
Yeah.
for you.
Anyways, as always, don't forget to be safe.
Keep training.
We'll see you guys next time.
Taekwondo.